At the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to a completely average teenager named Dave Lizewski. And when I say average, I mean painfully average. He's not popular, he's not athletic, he's not rich, and he's definitely not the kind of guy any girl would notice walking down the hallway. He has exactly two friends, Todd and Marty, and the three of them spend most of their time hanging out at a local comic book shop, completely lost in their own little world of superheroes and graphic novels. But there's one person Dave can't stop thinking about, a girl named Katie, who doesn't even know he exists. Now here's where things get interesting. One ordinary afternoon, Dave is sitting with his friends, and he asks a question that's been bothering him for a long time. With all these comic books in the world, with all these stories about masked heroes saving the city, why has nobody in real life ever actually tried to become one? Marty laughs at him and says the answer is obvious. To be a superhero, you either need to be born with powers, or you need to be a billionaire who can build fancy gadgets. Dave is just a broke high school kid, so the idea is ridiculous, right? But just then, a kid named Chris D'Amico walks past them. Now Chris isn't just any rich kid. His father, Frank D'Amico, happens to be one of the most feared mafia bosses in the entire city. Dave watches Chris from across the room and notices something strange. Even though this guy has everything, money, designer clothes, bodyguards, he always looks completely alone. Dave decides to walk up and try to make a friend, but the bodyguard shoves him away like he's nothing. And then, just to make Dave's day even worse, when he and his friends step outside, a couple of street thugs corner them and rob them at knife point. That's the moment. That's the breaking point. Dave is so fed up with being weak, with watching the world get worse and nobody doing anything about it, that he makes a crazy decision. He's going to become a superhero. A real one. He hops online, orders himself a goofy green and yellow scuba suit, grabs 2 metal batons, and starts secretly training in his bedroom, getting ready to clean up the streets all by himself. But trust me, what happens on his first night out is going to change everything. Now while Dave is busy living out his comic book fantasy, the movie cuts to a much darker corner of the city. We see Mafia boss Frank D'Amico in his hideout, and he's furious. He's interrogating one of his men, a guy named Trey. See, Frank had sent Trey to deliver a huge shipment of drugs to a Russian gang, but the deal went south. Trey swears he's innocent. He says some lunatic dressed up like Batman jumped out of nowhere, attacked him, and stole the entire shipment. The thing is, the Russian buyers are telling Frank a completely different story. According to them, Trey skimmed most of the drugs for himself and sold them only a tiny portion at a ridiculous markup. Frank doesn't know who to believe, but he doesn't really care either. He just wants someone to pay. So he calmly turns to his right-hand man, Joe, and orders Trey to be killed on the spot. Right after this, the movie introduces us to 2 more characters who are going to flip this whole story upside down. We meet Damon McCready, a serious-looking man who used to be a police officer, and we meet his daughter Mindy, who is only 11 years old. But the way Damon is raising her is anything but normal. In one of the most jaw-dropping scenes in the entire film, Damon makes Mindy put on a bulletproof vest, and then he literally shoots her in the chest. Yeah, you read that right. He's not abusing her. He's training her. He wants her to learn what it feels like to take a bullet so that one day, when it really matters, she won't freeze up. He tells her the most important lesson in life is knowing how to defend yourself, no matter what. And believe me, this little girl is going to surprise everyone. Back to Dave. So our wannabe hero is training hard, but the truth is, he's not exactly Batman material. He's terrified of jumping off rooftops, and his coordination is honestly embarrassing. But one day, he spots the same thugs who robbed him earlier, this time trying to break into someone's car. Dave finally puts on his suit, takes a deep breath, and steps out to confront them. And this is where reality slaps him in the face. Hard. The thugs don't run away scared. They beat him senseless, stab him in the gut, and leave him bleeding on the road. As if that wasn't bad enough, a car comes flying down the street and slams right into him, then drives off. He's lying there, broken and unconscious, until some strangers spot him and rush him to the hospital. Doctors literally have to install metal plates throughout his body just to put him back together. But here's the wild part. Because of all the nerve damage from the accident, Dave's ability to feel pain becomes seriously reduced. In a weird way, the worst night of his life just gave him something close to an actual superpower. Meanwhile, Frank gets word from Joe that Trey was telling the truth all along. He's still alive somewhere, still moving drugs, which means the Russian gang lied to Frank's face. Frank goes ballistic. He sends his men out to take back every gram of product the Russians ever bought. The next day, Joe captures the Russian leader, and after squeezing a confession out of him, he shoves the man into an industrial-sized microwave and turns it on. The guy literally explodes. That's the kind of monsters we're dealing with here. Now let's get back to Dave. After he recovers and returns to school, something completely unexpected happens. Katie, the girl of his dreams, suddenly walks up and starts being super friendly with him. She even invites him to hang out. Dave can't believe his luck, but when he runs and tells Marty, his friend bursts his bubble immediately. Apparently, a rumor has spread all over the school that Dave is gay. That's the only reason Katie feels so comfortable around him. She thinks he's safe. Now any normal guy would correct her right away, but Dave wants to be near her so badly that he just keeps the lie going. At the same time, his superhero dream isn't dead. He launches a MySpace page, picks the perfect name, Kick-Ass, and waits for his moment. That moment comes one night when he's out searching for a missing cat for a neighbor. He stumbles onto a scene where 3 thugs are brutally beating up a man in an alley. And this time, Dave doesn't run. He charges in and fights them off, taking hits like they're nothing thanks to his metal-reinforced body and dulled pain receptors. The whole thing is recorded by people on their phones and uploaded to YouTube. Within hours, Kick-Ass is a worldwide phenomenon. Everyone is talking about him. People genuinely start to believe a real superhero is walking among them. And guess who else is watching that video? Damon and little Mindy. Mindy is impressed. She thinks this Kick-Ass guy actually has potential. Damon, on the other hand, is way less excited. He sees an amateur in over his head. But this is where the worlds of these characters are about to collide in the most insane way possible. A little while later, Dave and Katie are having dinner together, and she opens up about something that's been scaring her. There's a creepy drug dealer named Rasul who keeps harassing her. Dave's blood starts boiling. Without thinking, he tells her she should ask Kick-Ass to handle it. Katie agrees, and that night, Dave suits up and walks straight into Rasul's apartment to confront him. This is the moment Dave learns that being a superhero in real life is nothing like the comics. Rasul and his crew don't care about his costume. They start beating him to a pulp, and they're seconds away from killing him. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, comes the moment that changes everything in this movie. A tiny figure in a purple wig drops into the middle of the fight, and she is something else entirely. This is Hit Girl. An 11-year-old assassin moving like a trained killer twice her age. She swings swords, fires guns, and takes down every single one of these grown men with terrifying precision. Dave is on the floor, jaw dropped, watching this little girl turn the room into a bloodbath. Then her father shows up, dressed like a cape wearing Dark Knight, calling himself Big Daddy. Together they finish the job and clean out Rasul's stash of cash. Then in true superhero fashion, they leap across the rooftops and disappear into the night. Dave tries to follow, but his fear of heights kicks in and he just stands there frozen. He gets home, takes off the suit, and breaks down crying. Compared to what he just witnessed, he's a joke. He's never going to be a real hero. But then, in a scene that feels straight out of a comic book, Hit Girl and Big Daddy suddenly appear right inside his bedroom. And this is where things get really interesting. They tell Dave that he's got something most people don't, real courage. They explain that with the right training and the right mindset, he could actually be part of something bigger. Big Daddy hands him a special signal system. If Dave ever gets into a situation he can't handle, all he has to do is upload a specific photo to his page, and they'll come running. After they vanish into the night, Dave is fired up like never before. He throws himself into training with a brand new sense of purpose. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Joe brings a photograph to Frank that was secretly snapped during the warehouse massacre. The picture shows the back of a costumed figure who is actually Big Daddy, but Frank and Joe have no idea. As far as they know, there's only one masked vigilante in town, and his name is Kick-Ass. So they pin every single attack on Dave. Every dead body, every stolen shipment, every burned warehouse. All of it lands on the wrong target. Big Daddy and Hit Girl, meanwhile, are quietly tearing Frank's empire apart from the inside. They grab one of his lieutenants, a guy named Cody, torture him for everything he knows about Frank's drug operation, and then put him down for good. This is where the movie drops one of its biggest emotional bombs. A police officer named Marcus, who turns out to be Damon's old friend, searches Damon's house and finds a massive arsenal of weapons. And through this scene, the movie reveals the heartbreaking backstory. Damon and Frank were once both cops working the same beat. But Frank, being the corrupt psychopath he is, framed Damon for a crime he didn't commit and shipped him off to prison. While Damon was rotting behind bars, his pregnant wife fell into a deep depression and died. Mindy was born in a hospital while her father wasn't even allowed to be there. So everything Damon has been doing, the training, the weapons, raising his daughter to be a deadly soldier, all of it has been building toward one single goal: burn Frank D'Amico's world to the ground. Things spiral even further when Frank, paranoid and furious, comes across some random idiot wearing a kick-ass style costume on the street. Frank loses it and kills the guy on the spot, only to find out moments later that it wasn't actually kick-ass. Now he's completely losing his grip on reality. But somebody is watching all of this very carefully. His own son, Chris D'Amico. Chris is desperate to prove himself to his father, to finally earn his respect. So he comes up with a plan that's actually kind of brilliant. He's going to put on his own superhero costume, call himself Red Mist, and pretend to be Kick-Ass's new best friend. The plan is simple. Get close to Kick-Ass, gain his trust, and then lead him straight into a trap that delivers Big Daddy right to Frank's feet. Chris kicks off the act by staging a fake good deed, busting one of his dad's own guys during a drug deal and handing him to the police. Just like that, Red Mist becomes a media sensation overnight. He reaches out to Kick-Ass through his website, and the two finally meet up. Dave is honestly pretty starstruck. Red Mist has a sleek custom car, a fancy outfit, and seems way more put together than him. The two of them ride off together looking for trouble. They roll up to one of Frank's warehouses, but something is very wrong. The place is already on fire. They go inside and find every single one of Frank's men slaughtered. Red Mist casually picks up a teddy bear from the floor as a souvenir, and the two manage to escape before the cops show up. Then they go their separate ways for the night. But here's the twist you didn't see coming. That teddy bear had a hidden camera inside it. Chris brings it back to Frank's office and plays the footage, and there it is, plain as day. Big Daddy is the one slaughtering Frank's crew. Frank finally realizes he's been chasing the wrong man this whole time. Kick-Ass is small fry. Big Daddy is the real threat. Frank gives Chris a new mission. Use Kick-Ass as bait and bring Big Daddy in. Now after the warehouse incident, Dave is rattled. He's seen way too much death, and for the first time he genuinely wants to quit. He hangs up the suit and tries to go back to being a normal kid. But Red Mist keeps blowing up his phone, begging for help, saying they're being framed for the warehouse murders. After a long internal battle, Dave caves. He puts the suit back on and meets up with Red Mist one more time. Red Mist convinces him that the only way to clear their names is to get Big Daddy involved. Dave activates the secret signal. Damon and Mindy see the call and rush to meet them. Frank's men are silently following the whole convoy. When they arrive at Big Daddy's hideout, Damon gets a weird feeling about Red Mist. Something is off, but against his better judgment, he lets them in. And then the trap snaps shut. Without warning, Red Mist pulls out a gun and shoots Hit Girl point blank. Frank's men come pouring through the doors, and both Big Daddy and Kick-Ass are knocked out cold and dragged away. This is the lowest point of the entire movie, or so it seems. Frank decides he doesn't just want to kill them. He wants to make an example out of them. A message to the whole city. He sets up a live stream on Kick-Ass's own page, telling the internet that the real identity of their hero is finally going to be revealed. Thousands of fans tune in expecting a big reveal, only to watch in horror as Big Daddy and Kick-Ass are tied up and brutally beaten on camera. Then the men start pouring kerosene all over Big Daddy. But just when it feels like all hope is lost, something incredible happens. Hit Girl rises from the floor. That bullet earlier? She was wearing the same kind of bulletproof vest her father used to train her with. She survived. She kills the lights in the room, slips on a pair of night vision goggles, and starts hunting these killers down one by one in the pitch dark. The scene is honestly one of the most jaw-dropping action moments in any superhero movie. But during the chaos, one of the thugs manages to light Big Daddy on fire. Damon is burning alive. And yet, even with flames covering his body, this man stays a father until his very last breath. He keeps calmly coaching his daughter through the fight, telling her how to position her body, how to time her shots, how to finish the job. Once every enemy is down, Mindy desperately tries to put out the flames, but it's too late. Damon dies right there in her arms, and the goodbye between them is absolutely heartbreaking. Mindy frees Dave, and he takes her back to his place to recover. The two of them make a vow. They are going to walk straight into Frank D'Amico's penthouse and end this once and for all. The next day, Mindy puts on a school uniform and walks right up to Frank's office building. The guards don't think twice about a little girl, so they let her right in. Then in a blink, she pulls a gun, shoves it in a thug's mouth, and the elevator doors close. By the time she steps off at the top floor, she's back in full Hit Girl gear, and she carves a path of destruction through every guard in her way. But eventually, even she runs out of ammo. She gets cornered by a wall of armed men, and for a second it looks like the end. And that's exactly when Dave makes the most ridiculous, the most awesome entrance of the entire movie. He blasts through the window wearing a custom-built jetpack with two heavy machine guns mounted on the shoulders, mowing down the entire room. He saves Hit Girl just in the nick of time. Up in Frank's office, Frank and Chris hear the gunfire stop and assume their men have finished the job. They're already celebrating. But then the door bursts open, and standing there alive and ready for war are Kick-Ass and Hit Girl. The look on Frank's face says it all. The final battle goes down. Hit Girl charges Frank, while Kick-Ass takes on the remaining goons. But Frank is huge and trained and fueled by rage, and he actually starts to overpower Mindy. Just when it looks like she's about to die, Dave grabs a weapon you don't typically see in superhero movies. A bazooka. He fires it at point-blank range, and Frank D'Amico is launched out of the window in a massive explosion, blown to pieces in midair before he ever hits the ground. After the smoke clears, Dave drops Mindy off at a safe place, and the two share a quiet, respectful goodbye. They've been through hell together. A few days later, we see that Marcus, Damon's old friend from the police force, is now taking Mindy in and giving her something she's never really had, a normal life. But the movie doesn't end on a peaceful note. In the final scene, we cut to Chris, who barely escaped the showdown. He's standing in front of a mirror, putting on a brand new costume, this time as a full-blown villain. The original Red Mist is dead. What's standing there now is something darker, something thirsty for revenge. And the screen cuts to black, leaving us to wonder what kind of war is coming next. So that was Kick-Ass, an absolutely wild ride about a regular nobody who had the guts to put on a costume in a world where doing that gets you killed, and the unforgettable little girl who stole every single scene she was in. Now I want to hear from you. If you could pick any superhero identity from this movie, would you go with Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, Big Daddy, or even the new Red Mist? Drop your answer in the comments because I'm seriously curious what you guys think. And listen, if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you still haven't hit that subscribe button, you're honestly breaking my heart a little. I put real time into bringing these movie breakdowns to you, and a free subscribe is the only thing I'm asking for in return. So smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. I'll catch you in the next one.